theatre, film, TV and more. Suzy Wrong reviews it all on Joy Drive.
Good afternoon, Suzy Wrong.
Good afternoon, Warren. I've got a question for you. Have you ever experienced sibling rivalry?
I suppose I did when my brother put a worm in my curly hair and I couldn't get it out.
What did you do to deserve that?
I don't know. He was just always doing it to me as a kid. Things like that. But I suppose, yeah, we got along quite well. I mean, occasionally we would, but no, I actually got along with him. But he would do tricks on me. That was the worst. I remember it. I couldn't get it out because I had really tight curly hair, so it got in.
And laid eggs, no doubt.
I know, that's what's wrong with me now. The eggs are hatched and they're in there perpetually, eating away at my brain. No.
And things are good with your brother now?
No, my brother passed away, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
Many years ago. But I have fond memories of the relationship that I had with him. What about you, Suzy? Tell us about your siblings.
Well, when we were young, there was a lot of resentment in the family. I think our parents didn't... my parents did some things really, really badly that created a lot of resentment between my brother and myself. But now that we're all kind of middle-aged, older people, things are going really well. Things became really good after he had a baby.
Oh, I think did that change?
Yeah. Oh, completely saved his life, and just made everything. Like, I think he was able to see. Maybe he understood parenthood. He understood parenthood, and he could see how the bad decisions were made, and he had a greater understanding of it. I imagine that's it. I'm saying that I have no part in it. I'm saying that I never I never made any mistakes. It was never my fault. But things are good now, and and having a child there to kind of focus our energy. Like, I'm trying to be a good auntie, and he's trying to be a good father. So that's where we focus things, and that's how we communicate. And it's been good since. But for many years, it was hard. It was a lot of resentment.
It's interesting because I often wonder. I mean, my memory of my brother is, I suppose, it stopped at a certain point in time when he was 21 years old. But it's funny because as I think of him now, it's almost like he's aged with me, even though I haven't seen him for so long. When I think of him now, I don't think of him as a 21-year-old. I think of him as a 50-year-old, and I find that really bizarre. So as much as I miss him, it's almost like I feel like he's still there in some ways.
It sounds like it's so much a part of you, isn't it?
Yeah,
maybe that's what it is.
Yeah, definitely, and I suppose you never lose that bond, and you never do. But I always think of him as an older man now, and I wonder what it would be like if he was still alive. Whether he'd probably have kids by now. I might be like you, Suzy.
Yeah,
I might be living in Singapore to get away from them.
I think it's good for those of us who are blessed with a good connection like that. That it really made me think about my brother watching this movie.
Do you were you ever a road trip person? I mean, they do in this movie. The movie we're talking about, by the way, is Drive Back Home. It's part of the Mardi Gras Film Festival. Did you ever do road trips, Suzy?
That's so funny. I'm thinking about that because it's funny because when we were slightly younger and partying a lot around Sydney, my friends and I, none of us drove.
Oh.
We hadn't had a single driver's license between us. Just a queer city folk who were just like in taxis and on buses the whole time. So we never really had that opportunity.
What about back in Singapore? Did you go up into Malaysia? Did your family drive?
Yes. Just last year, just in November, so literally, what's that? 3-4 months ago, we had this trip into Malaysia that was really the best time. I have a younger brother who's in his early mid-20s. He was born while I was here, so I never knew him really well. But there was this one opportunity just recently where we were going to go up, and we ended up, just the two of us refused to go very early because we wanted to sleep in. So two of us were in one car for the first time alone, and we just had so much D&M, so much deep, meaningful chat, and and just in the space of 3 hours, just became really, really close.
Isn't that fantastic? What a story,
Really,
Suzy.
really close. And secretly, he was telling me things that he couldn't tell anybody else because he's living in America and I've lived here for a while, and there are things you do as an international student that he just couldn't tell anyone else. And he knew that I wouldn't judge him, and he knew exactly that that I would know exactly what he's going through, and it just gave us such a great moment to bond.
Are you still in contact with him now that he's back in the US?
Oh yeah, look, we have a family WhatsApp group that's fairly active, and it's nice, you know, like the younger ones in their 20-somethings, they have much better things to do than to see what the older people are doing. I remember when I was in my 20s and, you know, discovering life in Sydney, I had no time for anyone but myself. So I understand that it's not that they're not valuing their relationship with me. It's just that they are in a space now where they're exploring the world, and when they're older, they would think, oh, you know what, family is quite important, but I don't think in your 20s is not the right time for that.
But how great though, you know, connecting, you know, with a big sister all of a sudden, and having who's gone through a lot of experience that's similar to your own. I reckon that would be awesome.
It's really interesting because these are things that I was able to give him information from life experience that his parents are probably either unable to provide or unwilling to provide because they are, you know, somewhat naughty things.
We're all going, what?
Look, I'm 20-something years older. Oh, yes, privacy, yeah. I'm 20-something years older than him, so it's almost like a parental position, but because I'm actually a sister, I feel like I was able to connect with him and give him some guidance. Yeah, and then, you know, and it allows me to kind of check in on him to say that, oh, this party you're going to, this girl you're seeing, how are things going? Because we kind of set that foundation. It's nice.
I think that's fantastic. I reckon road trips can, but especially family road trips, they can be absolute chaos, or they can be secretly the best, and things can happen that you don't expect to happen on a road trip. I think they're great. And we're chatting with Suzy Wrong. We're talking about Drive Back Home, which is screening as part of the Mardi Gras Film Festival. I'm asking you, what song do you what's your favourite road trip song, or a road trip song that takes you back in time? Darren says, my summer driving song would have to be We're All Going on a Summer Holiday by Cliff Richard. We might even have to play that one a little later. Suzy, someone's come in and said, delightful story, Suzy. So happy to hear you had that time with your little bro. How good's that?
Thank you. Happy to share that with you.
Now, Suzy, let's talk about Drive Back Home. What did you think of it?
The story takes place in 1970 Canada, where, like the rest of the world, harsh policing of gays is the norm. Pearlie has been caught having sex in a public toilet in Toronto, and his brother Weldon, who lives over 1,000 miles away, is called up on the phone to pick up the offender. It had become convention that the police would contact a family member to retrieve those arrested for gay sex, and in the process expose their homosexuality. This week's film is the excellent Drive Back Home, which you can find online at the Mardi Gras Film Festival. Just go to queerscreen.org.au. It is a road movie with two fabulous actors, Alan Cumming and Charlie Creed Miles, taking us on a journey about reconciliation, understanding and acceptance between a pair of estranged brothers. Against a placid and very beautiful Canadian landscape, Drive Back Home starts off quiet and quirky, but catches us off guard with surprising moments of drama and action. It is perhaps predictable that a film of this nature is going to deliver poignancy, but how it moves us is quite unexpected. I found Drive Back Home to be a real delight. The chemistry between the two leads is thoroughly enjoyable. Writing and direction by Michael Clowater is so cleverly considered, with great humor and a lot of heart. I believe the film is based on Clowater's own family history, which could explain the incredible nuance, making what appears to be a simple story feel so deep and consequential. I found myself loving loving both brothers and was really rooting for them to get to a happy conclusion. Definitely my favorite film in this year's online program for the Mardi Gras Film Festival. Warren, did your heartstrings get tugged by this movie?
Oh my goodness! You know what? I really enjoyed it. I was sitting there watching it, and I loved it. I thought the movie was great. And there's some shocking scenes in there, though. We have to admit there were some pretty bad homophobic, violent scenes, and it was a bit of a good reminder of what life was like for a lot of people and can still be like for a lot of people. I don't know. Were you shocked by those, Suzy?
I was shocked only because it started off so quiet and so quirky. Yeah, and the brutality comes. And I think because we have experienced, not this kind of violence, for you and I, but we understood that what those times were like. We knew the threat. We might not have encountered this kind of violence, but we knew that this sort of threat was always just around the corner for us. And the way that the film portrayed it felt, even though it was very dramatic, it felt accurate. It felt realistic to me.
And the other thing is too, when you look at the brother and the violence that went on, and the constant, I suppose, this is where when I was watching it, he was constantly getting into trouble, or for being him. He wasn't going out and necessarily, robbing a bank or doing anything violent or breaking the law or anything, but he was just being him and falling into situations and, following his sexuality and getting into trouble because of that constantly. And it was sort of portrayed as though, can't you just stay out of trouble? Well, he was just being himself.
Yeah, and, the film does it also well. I think what is effective is how these moments of intensity arrive really suddenly, so you can really feel how powerful those things are. And for me as well, in those moments of violence, it was when the film was really able to make you feel the tragedy of it, and I cried. I just thought, I was surprised. Like, you think that I thought I was going to cry while they were having some kind of sweet discussion in the truck while they're driving, right? When they're having like reflective moments about their life together or something. But it's that moment of of violence and bloodletting that I found myself crying, and just finding how this film was just so unexpected. There was just so much that's so unusual about the film in how it made me feel, even though it looked like quite an ordinary sort of idea of a film.
The film is called Drive Back Home. You can still catch it as part of the Mardi Gras Film Festival at queerscreen.org.au. Suzy, I think I agree with you. I got a bit upset watching it too. Just the hatred, the film just captures it so well. The hatred in these people's eyes, their face, their actions towards someone who is gay. It is just horrific to see. You feel it when you're watching the film. You see it acted out and you feel for the character. It is just, I don't know. I got a bit upset watching it as well. It's quite confronting. Just seeing it.
Yeah. Just I think that the confrontational quality of it makes it special. Otherwise, it would have seemed disingenuous. It felt like, we'll just mention a little bit that times were hard, and then we won't show it. But I thought they made the right choice by showing quite a bit of it, and also, the transformation of the straight brother, because he did look at his gay brother with those same eyes at the start, didn't he?
Yeah.
They hadn't spoken for a long time, and when he was forced to pick him up from the cop shop, he was, you could see that he was a person that was full of hatred, and didn't have any understanding for his brother. But the way it transformed over 90 minutes was so beautifully done. You couldn't even see where he started feeling the empathy, but you just saw this person softening throughout, and how they were able to discover their kind of brotherhood. I just love so much about this movie.
I liked the mum too. The way she just
she was fantastic.
Just go and get him because I said so. Like, everyone was questioning it. Why go get him? But She was great.
Yeah,
she was amazing.
She was performing this kind woman, but she wasn't a soft woman because she lived in a kind of really rough rural setting and had a terrible husband. So she was a really tough woman, and the toughness was used to quite great comical effect in the start. But at the same time, when she was performing the comedy, you could see how the kindness was where the story basically started. She insisted that the brother go pick him up.
What do you think of the stuffed dog?
Oh, it was so funny and so great. Like there is this stuffed dog. What was it called? A taxidermy dog, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that was a little bit bizarre at the start, but it followed them on the journey, and it just became so charming. We don't reveal too much, but something that seemed so silly and pointless at the start became so wonderful at the end. Oh, incredible.
I loved it. Encourage you to see it. We can still see it, can we, Suzy? Drive Back Home?
Yes, you've got, I think, a week or so more to go, and definitely check it out. This festival, I never would have known about this film if not for this festival. I'm so happy to have seen it.
Me too. Drive Back Home. Catch it at queerscreen.org.au. Suzy Wrong, another great chat. What are we watching next week? I can't wait.
Smoggy Queens is a 6-part comedy series from the UK, now streaming on Binge. One of the most hilarious things I've seen in recent times, featuring an unruly group of smoggy queens, queer friends just trying to make it through the day in the less than glamorous town of Middlesbrough. See you next Tuesday. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Suzy. And the movie, of course, is called Drive Back Home. Do you know what, Darren? I'm going to play your road trip song. Here's Cliff Richard on Drive.